Hello and welcome back or welcome to the Riley Brakefield Show. I am your host, Riley Brakefield, also known on the streets as Titties. I know I'm pretty hardcore like that. But this podcast, it's about pretty much whatever comes to my brain. It's mostly college sports because that's what I love and that's what gets me up in the morning. I don't know. But I just love to talk about college sports, talk about pro sports. We'll talk about politics. We'll talk about mythological creatures. We'll talk about you name it, we're here. We're going to talk about it. If it's going on in the world, we're going to talk about it. I'm going to share my opinion, whether you want it or not, but you probably want it if you're listening. But don't forget to like, share, subscribe, follow on all social medias, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. I'm even on Facebook. If you want to friend me on there, I don't have one of those pages, but we can be friends at the minimum, I guess. That's fine with me. Today's show, a couple news topics. Hope you enjoyed your Christmas as well. Before I get too far, I forgot that Christmas was yesterday. Merry Christmas to you and yours, just how it is. But today's show, just a little bit of news, what's going on in the world. My top five. No takeaways from college basketball or college football this weekend. There was one bowl game, but I didn't really check it out too much. No college basketball, so nothing really to talk about there. But I will be previewing, top games of the week before next episodes would be recorded and out. So, talking Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday games, a couple bowl games in there, a couple college basketball games that tickle my interest, and then, finish the show off with a couple NFL thoughts and takeaways from the weekend. But that will be all of the, also, I will be ranking first-year head college football coaches, first year at the new job. Talk a little bit about them, why I have them, where they're at, kind of what the future looks like for them. But getting into it, we got the Colts-Chargers game on here right now. Going to be checking that one out. Brandon Staley was practicing in his sex routine for when he gets home, if you didn't see that already. They also just had a horrible graphic of Justin Herbert basically being that meme where the guy's walking away checking out the other girl, but they had a Hall of Fame voter with him and he was looking at winning and going to the playoffs. So that was kind of a weird graphic, but I mean, ESPN is known for that, so you got to love that for them. A couple big news coming out of the NFL today. Nathaniel Hackett was fired from the Broncos after, their 4-11 or 5-11 start, and after getting blown out by the Rams. Baker Mayfield looks like he might be fixed. But the Broncos decided to go the route of firing Nathaniel Hackett. I don't know if that's the right move. If I would say, I don't really feel like it's a head coach thing. I feel like it's a quarterback thing. The offense hasn't been able to click, but there's reports that, possibly Sean Payton's looking at taking the job. So we'll see what happens there. But, it could be conflicting considering he wants to have Vic Fangio as his DC. Vic Fangio was just the head coach there in Denver. So we'll see what happens there. But kind of an interesting situation. I don't feel like it necessarily was Nathaniel Hackett's fault that they lost that game. I mean, you could say yes and no, but their offense has been struggling all year. I feel like it's been more of a Russell Wilson issue, in my honest opinion. So interested to see, who they're going to hire as a head coach and see if, he was the problem, where Hackett ends up landing, because I think he's still a very smart offensive mind. So I'm sure he'll get picked up somewhere. Just going to be kind of interesting to see what happens with that whole situation, see kind of who the actual problem was. Speaking of problems, Tua Tagovailoa is on concussion protocol again. You hate to see it for the young man, but there's a video clip going around of him he had just thrown the ball away and he got hit and he lands on his head. And so then, people are pretty much assuming that's where his concussion came from. More than likely, I think that they're right. I mean, Warren Sharp, a very smart, analytical man for the NFL. He's always putting out good analytics and stuff like that. He came out and showed that if that play was where Tua suffered the concussion, before that play, Tua was 9 for 12 for 229 yards, 19.1 yards per attempt, almost 20 yards per attempt. It had a touchdown and interception. After that play, 13 passes, so the same amount as before. He only had 12 before, and he only completed 7 of them. He had 81 yards passing. It was 6.2 yards per attempt, no touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. So more than likely, that is where he suffered his concussion, something the NFL missed, once again. So I just hate to see this for Tua again. I think he has a promising young career ahead of him. But at the same time, you start to wonder when is it time to hang it up, because all these injuries just keep on lingering and lingering and lingering. You hate to see it, for the young man, like I said, but it's just at the same time, you're like, is this, how sustainable is this? How many more head injuries is he going to suffer? How many more injuries is he going to suffer as a whole? So I hope that, he can get full recovery, everything goes good, but at the same time, it might be time for Tua just to think about walking away if all these injuries keep piling up, especially if they're head ones. Can't really deal with another one there, in my opinion. But at least there was some bright spot of news that came out of the weekend. But this is kind of more involving a retired player. Apparently, Gronk was offered to be able to wear number 69, and because it's a considered eligible receiver number now, so he'd be able to wear 69, throughout the game, and he'd be an eligible receiver. So somebody offered him that, not apparent on who it was, but got to do whatever you can to get Gronk out. It's Gronk, one of the best tight ends the game's ever seen. Definitely top two, probably not two either. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with Gronk. I doubt he comes out of retirement. He seems like he's pretty happy. Just kind of a funny little news story that came out. Looks like the Colts might win tonight. Everyone on the Monday Night Football preview broadcast all just picked the Chargers to win, so that's not a good sign if you were betting the Chargers to win this one. That sucks. We'll see. They got Nick Foles starting this game, too. That's going to be interesting to see what Nick Foles can put together. Speaking of quarterbacks, though, DJ Ugalele is announced that he is transferring to Oregon State. We'll see what he can do there. Oregon State coming off a really good year, just finished out 10-3, I believe. Won of their bowl game, looking really good. Very competitive this year in the Pac-12. Won quite a few games. We'll see what happens with them. I don't know if it's the right move. I don't know if DJ is really a 5-star talent like he was supposed to be. We'll see if it is just he just didn't mesh well with Dabo Swinney and the system that they ran there, or if it's just something he's got going on mentally. Kind of cool, though, his brother just committed to Oregon, so once the Civil War comes around, if his brother's playing, Mateo, his younger brother, if his brother's playing and DJ's starting, it'd be kind of cool to see Mateo get a sack, on his big brother. That'd be something that probably hasn't happened very too often, so that would be cool to see. But we'll see. I'm excited for him. I'm excited to see, if he really is this 5-star talent that he's cracked up to be. He looked great couple years ago in that loss to Notre Dame. Everyone thought that Clemson was going to be in good hands, and then when he became the full-time starter, just never really seemed to click and go the way that they wanted to. So we'll see. I hope that it works out, because it'd be cool to add another team out there in the Pac-12 that would be interesting. I mean, think about the Pac-12 right now. You have USC with Caleb Williams coming back. Utah can't count out Kyle Whittingham. I mean, he's been doing a phenomenal job there for so long. He can always seems to really be finding his groove. Back-to-back Pac-12 titles. Really putting together a program there. So they're a tough team to watch out for. UCLA just landed Dante Moore. Obviously, Chip Kelly's really seen a lot of progress in that program in the past 2 years, especially. Don't really see things changing too much. Oregon, Dan Lanning just got a huge recruiting class. I mean, they had a really good year. Washington, Kalen DeBoer in his first year had a really good year. You had in Oregon State, who already had a good year, and getting a talent like DJ makes them interesting to see if, like I was talking about, what the problem is with him. You got Colorado, who's looking up. I mean, things are just looking up in the Pac-12. You could even throw Washington State in there. I mean, Cam Ward, I believe, is coming back. They had a good year, finished out 7-5 or 8-4 or whatever. It was really, they had a really successful season. I mean, who else? Arizona's seen a lot of progress within their program. Ken Dillingham at Arizona State now. I mean, the Pac-12 as a whole can be really, really fun conference to watch next year. I'm actually pretty juiced to watch it. One other big quarterback news in the college football world, Hudson Card, backup quarterback for Texas this year, started a couple games, came against Alabama, didn't do too bad in that game. Had a decent year, had a decent couple of years at Texas, but he decided to transfer. He's going to Purdue, kind of take over and lead that team. I think he's only got 1 year, maybe 2 years left of eligibility, but definitely an interesting move. He's definitely I think he can definitely be a top 20 quarterback in college football next year. Didn't make a lot of bad decisions at Texas. He can throw the ball, does make right decisions. So I think it's a very interesting get for Purdue, a program that's got a new head coach coming in, a couple new faces, losing a couple key guys. So we'll see what happens with them. But I do like the move for Hudson Card, and I think it's going to pan out and make Purdue pretty interesting out there in the Big Ten West. Watch Glass Onion this weekend. That was a big movie that everyone was talking about. This is a sequel to Knives Out, kind of in the same world as that. Good movie. I definitely recommend checking out. I enjoyed it. Don't want to give any spoilers away if you haven't seen it, but if you haven't, go check it out. It's definitely worth a watch, in my opinion. Found something a little interesting. I found something out new today that I found quite interesting. That sounds better, I think. Kwanzaa. You ever heard of Kwanzaa? No, I've seen it on calendars and stuff like that. I guess basically, I never really understood it, never looked too much into it. I thought it was kind of more of an African thing, and I never did too much research into it or what it was. And it basically is something for Black people and Black people's culture, I guess. But it was created by a professor in the '60s and not really widely participated in up until like the '70s, '80s, I guess. But basically, a college professor made this up, and a lot of people say, it's just kind of a fake holiday. Not a lot of people seem to celebrate it, and I was seeing this from a lot of Black people as well. But basically, he stopped believing. People think that this guy basically created it for Black people to stop believing in church in a sense and stop believing in the white culture of you have to go to church, the conservative culture of church and stuff like that, which I don't agree with either. But at the same time, this was created, kind of for the Democratic Party in a sense to help get Black people on their side. But I found out this guy who created it was also kidnapping and keeping young women in his basement. So absolute psycho that created this made up holiday to help people, but never doesn't really help anyone, but create more divide in our country. He's the creator of that, so makes sense to listen to somebody like that. So it doesn't make any sense to me. Kind of weird. Kind of just stumbled across it. If you didn't know, figured now you know. So now for this week's top 5. My top 5 this week is top 5 mythological creatures that I think are real, because I just do. There's no evidence to prove that they aren't, because if dinosaurs are real, anything can be real in my opinion, because I don't believe that dinosaurs are real. Never seen one in my life. So how am I supposed to know that it's real? So how do we know that such things as goblins at number 5 aren't real? I believe goblins are real, dude. I've seen videos on the internet of these little weird looking creatures, and it's either really good CGI, it's always low quality videos, just like everything ever is. But, I have a belief that goblins are real because they're just mischievous little creatures that like to steal things, and I am always losing things. Many people are always just randomly losing things, and they're in new places, These goblins, you probably think that, you have a spirit in your house. It's probably just a goblin. Goblins are real. I know that goblins are real. I've seen them with my own eyes. I watched the video. Like I said, I watched the video. I know goblins are real. Number 4, mermaids. I believe that mermaids are real. It's either mermaids are real, or when pirates were out on all these voyages, they were just fucking seals and thinking, they were so sleep deprived out there in the middle of the ocean, making these big long ventures across the world that they didn't even know existed on the other side. You get a little horny, you get a little confused, you get a little tired, and you'll fuck a seal, maybe. But then again, you have to get that thing, hold it down. I think mermaids are real. All those stories, and there's just no way. I've seen video as well. I've seen video evidence of mermaids. There was that one show on like TLC. I don't think it wasn't TLC. I don't even know what it was. They were trying to find out if mermaids are real. I believe in mermaids. I think that they're out there. I think that they're, there's Atlantis out there. There's all these things. I believe in mermaids. It's pretty simple. Number 3, I believe that griffins are real. Griffins, if you're not familiar, I know they're not a mainstream one. They have the body of a lion and usually a head and wings as well. Sometimes no wings. Usually head and wings of a bird, which is usually an eagle. They've always been guarding treasures and stuff like that. They're well known to be a loyal creature. They were basically dogs before dogs were ever real. So I believe that griffins are real. Griffins are real. Yeah, I believe that griffins are real. That's just one that I don't have a lot of evidence to back that up, not a whole lot of argument about it, but I don't see how they wouldn't be if they're such a loyal creature. I'm sure that I have one out there guarding my family's long lost treasure that we have no idea about, because, the world's changed so much in the past 2,000 years after Christ was born. So anything could happen before then. Everyone says that Earth is millions and millions of years old. So then, in my opinion, that means that all these creatures are real if that's the case, because why would they not be? You can't just make stuff like that up. You can't just make stuff up. It's impossible. I have chlamydia. Did I make that up? Of course, but I can't just make it up like that, because it just doesn't make sense. So number 3, griffins. Number 2, though, has to be one of the best, most beautiful mythological creatures there are ever in the entire world that is alive, and they're just triumphing through our lands. They're just triumphing through our sky. That's unicorns. There's so much evidence to prove that unicorns are real. It's unbelievable. I mean, there's already a horse. All you gotta do is just put a little horn on it. Done deal. Unicorns are real. They're out there in the forest right now. They're roaming around. They're watching over people. They're worrying about the future of their forest. There's unicorns for each forest. It's proven. Just go look it up. There's a unicorn that mans every forest, and they're protector of the realm. That's just what unicorns do. They just protect you. They'll give you beautiful rides. I've seen unicorns running through fields. I mean, I grew up in Montana. We have a huge unicorn population. I've seen at least 50 unicorns. And you're trying to tell me unicorns aren't real? Bullshit. Number one, backs up the argument that if dinosaurs are real, these have to be real dragons. If dinosaurs are real, dragons are real. There's no way in hell dragons weren't real, dude. Who the hell was King Arthur supposed to fight? Who are all these mythological heroes and stuff that everyone says was real? They were fighting dragons. Dragons are still alive to this day. They're just hiding. They're dormant. Once nuclear war comes back, then they'll kind of come out and take back over and try to help us out. I've already got it figured out. I already know that my dragon's gonna be my dragon's somewhere in the world. I know that I have one because I just know that I have special magical powers like that. So I know that dragons are real. I know that they're kind of protectors of the whole world. The master wizard put them to sleep until absolute chaos ensued in the entire world, and then they'll come in to protect us and help us once aliens or nuclear war starts. So my number one mythological creature that I know is real is dragons, because if dinosaurs are real, dragons have to be. But that's this week's top 5. I hope you enjoyed. Let's move on to talking a little bit about some college football and college basketball. Like I said, hold on. Get myself confused here. No real college basketball or college football games to recap that really tickled my interest or that I even watched. But we'll get into that in a sec. First, I'm going to be ranking the new head football coaches. This is only for Power 5 programs, as well as I threw UConn in there because they're still independent. They're still have, in terms of Power 5, they are a Power 5 school in the past. They're independent right now, so they're not technically one, but they have been in the past, and I think moving forward in the future, they're definitely going to be an independent team to watch. Number one, I'm joking, hold on. Number one, never had COVID in my life, so that's not COVID. I know that for a fact. I just choked on water. That's all it is. Sonny Dykes, obvious number one, in my opinion. I mean, in the college football playoff, almost won the Big 12 title, had a perfect regular season, finished out 12-1, turned around the program. They had Gary Patterson at the helm for 20 some years. For so long, he was there. Program just needed a fresh new voice. Sonny Dykes was that guy. But not just that, the recruiting has stepped up as well. They finished 45th in the country last year. This year they're sitting at 18. I know they've got quite a few good transfer guys as well. Really, really building something there. I mean, has a chance to go compete for a national championship in year one. I think that they can do it, honestly. In my honest opinion, I think TCU has a chance. So number one to me has to be Sonny Dykes. He deserves the utmost respect. Put together a phenomenal year. Like I said, has a chance to win a national championship. Has to be number one. Number two, Lincoln Riley. Mostly for the fact of the overall improvement of USC. I know they didn't make the playoffs. I know they lost the Pac-12 title. But at the same time, the team was 4-8 last year and finished out 11-2, with a possible bowl game, getting to 12 wins possibly. Really, really good year. The recruiting improved. I mean, last year they were sitting 70th in the country, weren't really recruiting very well. I mean, getting a lot of transfers really helped them. That's what was key. But, now sitting this year, they're the 12th. They have the 12th best class in the country. That's, if you want to be a team that's going to compete and win national championships and be in that playoff conversation every year, you got to be putting together top 15 recruiting classes at a minimum. You need to have that talent level. You need to be getting guys in that you can trust and, they can help build for the future of this program and just get your name out there. You got to kind of be up at that top upper echelon to really be considered a threat and to be able to build a program and be able to compete for national championships and conference championships on a regular basis. So to me, Lincoln Riley's kind of got that going again at USC. Number 3, my boy, Brian Kelly. Things go a little different. You don't lose to Florida State. You don't lose to Texas A&M. You don't lose in the SEC championship. You're in the playoffs probably right now, putting together a really good year. But the reason he's at 3 is because LSU really was a dumpster fire the past 2 years. Barely, sitting at 500 the past 2 years. Lost the bowl game last year. Not that really matters in my opinion. But really just a god-awful program that kind of took a dip. And then in your first year to win 9 games, get to a bowl game, have a huge upset against Alabama, upset Ole Miss. They were still considered top 10 team at the time. Gets number 3. The ball falls a different way. You win. And the recruiting class did improve. Last year they were sitting at 12. This year we're sitting at 11. So things are improving, so that's why Brian Kelly gets number 3. Number 4, a guy's name I just mentioned a couple minutes ago, Kalen DeBoer out of Washington. The improvement, is unreal for what he did for the Huskies this year. They finished out 4-8 last year. You get a new head coach in, you're not really sure where things are going to go. You go land a big transfer quarterback in Michael Penix, and you have a 10-2 year, a really solid year for Washington. A chance to finish out here in the top 10, win your bowl game. They got that one this week. Talk about that more. But to see that huge improvement from 4-8 to 10-2, just proves really got something special. There's a ton of talent on that roster. Everyone knows that. But you're looking at the recruiting class last year, they were 96th. This year they jumped up to top 30, the 27th best class in the country. And I know I said, 15, but if you're in that top 30, you're at least starting to really build something special. If you're in the top 30 year in, year out, you're really starting to build a good program. You're really starting to get a foundation of, who you can be, a top 25 program at a minimum. Washington can obviously take a step forward, but for now, work on being a perennial top 25 team, building out that talent, building out that roster, and things will come. I mean, Washington's a program. Chris Peterson took them to the fucking college football playoff a couple of years ago. It can happen at Washington. In the 90s, they were very successful. They had a ton of talent back in the 90s. They are a program that can really be something special. I really feel like Kalen's getting that, and I really like the direction that the Huskies are going. But I have him at 4 just because the other 3 guys, accomplished a little bit more this year, in my opinion. Number 5, Mike Elko. This is kind of one, I gave him 5. So Duke finishes out 8-4 this year. The year before that, they were, I don't remember. I think they were 3-9 or 4-8. I didn't write it down. Go with 8-4 this year. 8 games is a huge deal when you are the head coach of Duke football. Like that's a huge accomplishment. Not a lot has changed recruiting wise. 51st last year, 50th right now. But I'm really looking towards the future. What this program was able to accomplish this year really shows to me what kind of coach Mike Elko can be, what he can really build for the future for Duke. That's why I got him at 5. Really a solid year. The recruiting didn't change too much, but I really expect a lot out of him moving forward in the future. I think he can really, get his name out there. If he has another successful year at Duke, he's probably getting an even higher, more prestigious Power 5 job next year. Bound to happen, but good for him. I like to see that, especially at Duke. That's a tough place to win. Number 6, Jim Mora, UConn. The recruiting didn't change. They were 113th last year, but finished out not finished out. They're at 112th this year. I expect there to be a couple transfers, a couple guys getting second chances at a place like UConn. Jim Mora proved, he's a really good coach. I knew that coming into the season. I when I was writing blogs, I was told a lot of people, and I said it on this podcast before, I just saw something in Jim Mora. His first year when he was with the Falcons and with the UCLA Bruins, he really, really had a good first year. That's something that just seems to happen with him, and he did it again this year. I mean, finishing 6-6 at UConn and making the bowl game, unreal. Awesome year for them, especially because last year they were 1-11. Didn't play the year before, but got a national championship from some bozo fucking writer who believed in COVID, basically. But ultimately for them, UConn's got a good coach. Jim Mora has proven that he can win. It's just a matter of if he can kind of keep that base and foundation going for the next couple of years. We'll see, but I think based off of this year's success, he's really going to be able to put something together at UConn and make a couple bowl games and possibly be competitive at some point. Number 7, Dan Lanning. Could be higher, but if they didn't lose those couple games down the stretch. I mean, not a whole lot of improvement necessarily. Oregon finished out 10-4 last year, obviously making the Pac-12 title game and whatnot. 9-3 this year, had a really good chance. They were in the conversation making the Pac-12 title pretty much up until the end of the season. Recruiting did improve a little bit, looking at 247 Sports is where I'm getting my recruiting rankings from as of today at like 5 o'clock. What do they have them sitting at? They're sitting at 11th right now. They obviously had a huge haul on National Signing Day. They got a lot of good guys, a lot of key pickups for Dan Lanning, really putting something together there. So I am seeing the improvement in recruiting, but overall, Oregon was a really good program. Mario Cristobal really was doing a good job there. So not a whole lot of change to me. It's more about what's going to happen in the next couple of years to see if, Dan Lanning's going to be a better head coach at Oregon than Cristobal was, kind of comparing where teams were last year. But who knows? If he has another good year, brings another big recruiting class, he's probably going to get signed to the next SEC head coach opening. Just a matter of time. Everyone knows it. Number 8, guy I was just talking about, Mario Cristobal. Really not a good year for Miami. Finished 5-7, 7-5 last year, so no real improvement. Everyone thought they were going to be really good this year. Really didn't seem that way. A couple points throughout the season, they just couldn't score. A couple points throughout the season, their defense looked bad. So we'll kind of see moving forward. The only reason Cristobal's not lower, 7-5 to 5-7 head coaching change, sometimes that's to be expected. Only reason he's not lower is because he's came in and done a hell of a job recruiting. As of right now, they have the 4th best class in the country. It's quite the accomplishment. Being top 5 is quite a big deal. Like I was talking about being top 15 earlier. Being top 5 is an even bigger deal. If you can do that on a year in, year out basis. The year prior, they were, 16th? They had the 16th best recruiting class. Pretty much a pretty huge jump for them. So that's kind of looking towards the future, looking towards what's next for them. Seems like Cristobal can probably be the guy for them. Number 9, Joey McGuire at Texas Tech. The only reason he's really here, record didn't change. They went 7-5 or 7-6 technically last year, depending on how their bowl game goes. Could be 8-4 or 8-5 or 7-6, but still kind of the same either way. Only real reason I have him at 9, a huge recruiting class jump. I mean, they finished out the 43rd last year. Right now, they're sitting 23rd, top 25. Huge deal. The state of Texas has a ton of talent, and they're getting that. So that, to me, that shows the improvement of what Texas Tech is looking for and shows more towards the future for me. Now, these last 4 guys are they're bottom feeders, the 4 out of 13 that haven't done too well compared to the rest of the bunch. Number 10 to me, Marcus Freeman. Recruiting took a little bit of hit, still put a top 10 class together. If we're just comparing apples to apples like I was with everyone else, they finished out 7th last year. They're sitting 8th right now. So, a little bit of a setback, I guess. But to me, the biggest thing is the record-wise. Notre Dame finished out 11-1 with Brian Kelly last year, and then Freeman became the head coach for the bowl game. Lost the bowl game, had a really bad start to this season, finished out 8-4. So if we're just comparing apples to apples, you look at an 11-2 record last year, 11-1 with Brian Kelly. Even you could say going in that direction, 11-1 with Brian Kelly, and then to be 8-4 with Marcus Freeman. A little bit of a setback. They played some not so good games to start out the season. We all saw the Marshall loss. But there was a lot of good improvement towards the end of the season. But the only reason to me that they're down is just kind of the record difference, looking at it, and the other big jumps these other coaches did with these programs in year 1. That's why he's kind of sitting at 10, kind of just more in the middle. The record to me, why I would rank Joey McGuire higher right there. Same with Mario Cristobal, the recruiting, the huge impact. I think that puts him ahead of Marcus Freeman in year 1. Number 11, Billy motherfucking Napier, dude. It's Florida fans, they don't know what to believe about this guy. They think he's the Messiah, but some of them also think he's the Antichrist. We will see, but nothing really has changed. Finished out 6-7 last year, did the exact same this year. And the recruiting class got a little bit better. They're sitting at 12th right now, and they were 18th last year, so maybe there's that improvement. We'll see. Things just are not looking good for Billy Napier at Florida right now. I personally think Florida made the wrong decision in firing Dan Mullen, so I think it's going to come back to bite them in the ass. Number 12, and easily could be number 13, Brent Venables at Oklahoma. Horrible job. I don't give a shit about the recruiting class when it comes to this one. Lincoln Riley was the head coach last year. Lincoln Riley was the head coach for, 4 or 5 years. Bob Stoops was the head coach for a really long time. Nothing should have really fundamentally changed with Oklahoma this year. I did not think they would be a playoff team, but I thought they would at least finish out with 9 wins. They finished at 500. They're 6-6 right now. They have a bowl game this week, but I don't think they're going to win that. They have one of the top 5 most talented rosters throughout the country when you add up the recruiting class rankings, transfer rankings, all that stuff. They have a top 5 team, I guess, in talent, and you go 6-6. Doesn't sit right with me. Lincoln Riley had made the playoffs in years past. Bob Stoops had won you national championships in years past, put you in national championships. And the Lincoln Riley to the Bob Stoops to Lincoln Riley hire wasn't that bad because Lincoln Riley was already on staff, so not a lot changed. So like I said, you expect a little bit of change when a new face, new voice comes in. But Oklahoma still had a crap ton of talent. There is absolutely zero reason they shouldn't have finished out with at least 8 wins. So to me, Brent Venables would get a D- if I was giving out grades. That's how bad of a year he had. And only one person had worse, and that to me is Brent Pry. Virginia Tech had a horrible year. I mean, they finished out, what was it? They were bowl eligible last year, I believe. They were either 7-5 or 6-6. Wasn't a great season for them. They decided to ultimately fire Justin Fuente. They go and get Brent Pry, and they go 3-9 this year. Yes, granted, the last game of the season they didn't play. Still an absolutely abysmal year. Recruiting didn't really change too much. They finished out with the 36th best class last year. Right now, sitting at 34th. I mean, Virginia Tech, they were once a storied program, but now it just seems like they're just kind of be run of the mill. I don't think Brent Pry is the guy. We'll have to see what kind of jump happens in year 2. But year 1, not even being bowl eligible is kind of a really bad look, especially at a place like Virginia Tech, playing in the ACC that, was up and down all year long. So to me, Brent Pry is the 13th worst Power 5 hire of the season. So that's me ranking the coaches. Maybe I should remember this, see where I ranked them, and then next year I'll do a fresh faces, and then I'll rank those year 2 guys and see how they're doing, just for shits and giggles. Now for a couple bowl games that I'm liking this week, a couple college basketball games that I'm getting excited about this week as well. Starting off with Tuesday night, a couple bowl games. We got the Birmingham Bowl, Coastal Carolina versus ECU. Coastal Carolina playing without head coach Jamie Chadwell, as well as star quarterback Grayson McCall, who's in the transfer portal. Huge disadvantage for Coastal Carolina. I think Chadwell is a huge part of their success. He really built that program, and Grayson McCall was the perfect quarterback to do that. So I really don't think that they're gonna really have much to fight for in this game. As compared to East Carolina, Holton Allers, their starting quarterback, he's going to be there. The kid can sling it. The line's sitting at 7 right now. I'm going to be going ECU -7. Just feels like too easy of a game. Like I said, no head coach, no star quarterback. Going to be a huge effect on how the Chanticleers play this game. Second bowl game on Tuesday night. Guaranteed Rate Bowl, Wisconsin versus Oklahoma State. Both these teams playing without their starting quarterback. Spencer Sanders hit the portal. Graham Mertz obviously hit the portal. I think Wisconsin's going to come out and win this one. The line is in their favor at 3.5 right now. I'm going to bet that. Mostly for the fact that Braylon Allen is going to be playing in this game. He's still got one more year of eligibility at a minimum. He's pretty much their offense, so I don't see much changing for Wisconsin. I see them kind of just pounding the ball with Braylon Allen, winning it out tough, nitty-gritty way. Moving on to Wednesday night, we actually have some college basketball that tickles my interest. But first up, we got bowl games. Military Bowl, UCF versus Duke. Obviously, we was just talking about Mike Elko, all the success he's had. He's got a starting quarterback. He's got most of his team here for this bowl game, so should be fun for them. UCF, on the other hand, had a really good year. Gus Malzahn, obviously an offensive genius. Has a guy like John Rice Plumlee as his quarterback. Both these quarterbacks can, they do pretty good. They're not both too pass-heavy teams. But I do like the over here at 62.5. I do feel like there's going to be a lot of points in this game just because both quarterbacks can sling it. Both quarterbacks are a little bit mobile. So I like a lot of points here in this one. Second bowl game of the night on Wednesday, AutoZone Liberty Bowl, Kansas versus Arkansas. Huge game for both these teams. Well, not huge game for both these teams. Huge game, in my opinion, for Lance Leipold. To beat an SEC quality team. Arkansas hasn't had a lot of transfers out. They've kind of been sitting in the middle in terms of that. Had a really down year for them as compared to what Kansas really has coming into this game. They have a lot more to fight for. Bowl game win, beating SEC school. To me, it just feels right. Everything's lining up in Kansas's favor. I'm going to go Kansas money line. I think Arkansas was favored by 3 or 4. I think Kansas is going to come out a little bit more inspired, a little bit more happy to be there. compared to what Arkansas is going to put out on the field. Third game of the night on Wednesday. Like I said, Thursday's loaded, bro. Thursday is motherfucking loaded with some good ones. Oregon, North Carolina. Bo Nix coming back to Oregon. Kind of going to be a fun quarterback matchup. Bo Nix versus Drake May. Two early Heisman favorites for next year. Going to be fun to watch them go back and forth. I really do like the over in this one, but I'm probably going to end up taking North Carolina money line. North Carolina, it's set at 14. And I couldn't really put together too many good reasons on why that would be necessarily. I know that Oregon, still has a lot of guys sticking around. Obviously, still has their starting quarterback. But I just have faith in Drake May. I've always had faith in Drake May. And 14 points seems like a bit much to me. So I expect North Carolina to cover that spread. So North Carolina plus 14 for the old motherfucking Holiday Bowl. Texas Bowl, Texas Tech, Ole Miss. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of points. A lot of points in this one. It's going to be a points fest. There's going to be points here. There's going to be points there. There's going to be points motherfucking everywhere. Just going to be points. But the over-under is set at 71 right now. And that just feels like a lot to me. 71 points, you do that in math terms. It's a 36-35 ball game. I'm splitting it right down the middle. Do I feel like that can happen? Yes, I feel like it could be a 42-38 type ball game. But that just seems like such a big number to bet. And every time I bet those big numbers, it never seems to go that way. So it's going to be a split decision for me. Split second decision for me. I don't know who I'm going to pick. I don't know what side I'm going to go. But I just like the points here. I feel like it's just going to be, both teams are going to be able to put up points, or they're both just going to be really stagnant and not be able to score the ball. But we don't just have a lot of college football bowl games on Wednesday night. We got a lot of really good college basketball games. I got 5 here. Villanova versus UConn. UConn's obviously still undefeated. They've been on an absolute tear this year. Haven't played too many tough teams. Villanova's definitely one of those tougher teams we're going to have to go against. They always seem to fight tooth and nail to the very end. I know there's, the head coaching change, but to me, this feels like a game Villanova gets up for. But I do think UConn is going to win. If the line is set at about 3, I'm probably going to go UConn. If it's a little bit more than that, I'm probably going to go Villanova. I feel like 6 is really the max. The 3 to 6 spot is really the sweet spot that I think UConn for sure wins and would cover that. Second game of the night, Kentucky versus Missouri. Missouri's only lost 1 game, was the Kansas, really good Kansas team. They've beaten good teams this year, though. They've beaten Illinois. But to me, Kentucky feels more like a Kansas team in terms of matchups for them. I don't really think that they can slow down Kentucky. I feel like the line's going to come anywhere between 1 and 7 for this game in Kentucky's favor. The line at 3 makes me a lot more confident in Kentucky. I think that they're going to win this game, but I could see them winning by quite a bit. Missouri's been challenged, but not challenged too much. So just wait and see on that one. More than likely, even at 7, I'd take Kentucky to win the game. Third one, Alabama versus Mississippi State. Alabama's ranked 8th right now. Mississippi State is 21. I feel like Mississippi State's kind of a fraud top 25 team. Hasn't played too many good teams this year. They only have 1 loss. That 1 loss affected them drastically in the polls. This one just feels like Alabama's just going to kind of come out and dominate the Bulldogs here. If the line to me, anywhere between 5 feels like that's what's going to be the line to me for this one, and that feels right. I think Alabama's probably going to kind of just go up and down the floor on them. So, but if it's set anywhere above 8, have some hesitancy with it. 5 feels like the real sweet spot to me. 4, Arkansas, LSU, 4th game here that tickles my interest. Arkansas coming to town, getting the respect that they deserve. They've only lost 1 game this year. Eric Musselman's really got himself a team this year. They're going up and down. They're 11-1 as well. LSU's also 11-1. To me, this just feels like a game that's brewing up, for early season storm watch. Common theme for college basketball. I feel like LSU is going to come out and win this one. I'm going LSU money line. It just feels right to me. I'm thinking about even going to the game. I live like 20 minutes away. It's not that far. Think about going to the game just to kind of see LSU this year and see how Arkansas is looking. But I'm rocking LSU money line for that one, especially if I go to the game. I'll fucking make sure to tweet it out and be like, I'm going to the game. LSU money line is the pick for this one. Bet the house on it. And if you're watching this Colts Chargers game or you're trying to remember it as I'm talking about it, I just watched the Colts run the same play like 4 times a freaking play action post route to Mo Alley Cox, and finally it was intercepted. They ran that play. I saw it 3 times while I was sitting here recording. They ran the same play 3 different times. And it didn't work the first 2 times. And the third time was just a lucky charm for the Chargers, I guess. That was absolutely so stupid. Why did they do that? 3 times on the same drive. Like, did we not know it was coming? Because if you didn't, you shouldn't be in the NFL. You shouldn't be an NFL safety if you didn't see that one coming. Like, holy shit. Last game for college basketball for the week that actually tickles my interest, I think, yeah. Xavier versus St. John's. St. John's is actually having a really good year. Xavier's kind of really been struggling against these top-ranked teams. They haven't been able to get the job done. And I don't think that changes on Wednesday. I'm going to go St. John's here. I feel like the line's actually going to be favored in St. John's direction. But they have a guy by the name of Joel Soriano. He plays the center position. He's averaging 15 and 12 right now, 15 points per game, 12 rebounds per game. Just having a really solid year. And like I said, I was looking at the box scores. Xavier struggles against these tougher opponents. So I think St. John's wins this one. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're favored either. A couple more bowl games on Thursday. Cheez-It Bowl, Oklahoma, Florida State. Talking about Oklahoma a little bit ago, Brent Venables, the horrible job that he's done this year. More than likely the team's finishing 6 and 7, because if they don't, Florida State really needs to think about if Mike Norvell is the guy. If Florida State loses this game to Oklahoma, they're going to be in huge trouble. The line's sitting at 9.5, and if Florida State doesn't even cover the spread, I'm going to be very disappointed in them. Holy shit. Interception Colts. This game is unreal, man. This is going to be an interception fest. Justin Herbert is mid. That's just all I got to say. But going back to the Cheez-It Bowl, Florida State, there's no way in hell they should lose this one. All the success they've had this year, they put together a really good year. Jordan Travis is sticking around, so he'll be there for the bowl game. Like I said, the spread's at 9.5. They should cover that easily. They should win this game by 10, I would think. If they don't, I'm going to have some serious questions about them going into next year. And they should have serious questions about Mike Norvell if they lose this game. Just my honest opinion. You should not. If Florida State has made any jump or improvement like they have this year and thought that they did, they need to blow out Oklahoma, in my opinion. Because Oklahoma, tons of talent on the team, but obviously a poorly coached team. No way in hell. No way in hell should Mike Norvell lose this game. Let alone cover the spread. He should cover it with ease, please. Thank you. Second game on Thursday, last bowl game for the week. Not for the week. I'll have more on Friday's show. Don't get upset. Don't worry about it. Last one, Texas, Washington. Texas ranked 20th right now. Washington 12th. Talking about Kalen DeBoer, all the success he's had there at Washington. Michael Penix will be playing in the bowl game, coming back again for next year. Quinn Ewers in this game as well. Should be a ton of points, I feel like. Really like the over. It's set at 67.5. I'm either taking the over or going Texas minus 3.5. I feel like, Quinn Ewers is kind of getting himself back to full health. Should really come out and give a really good performance. I expect them to win this game by 4. But I do really like the over as well. If you're feeling a little shaky about the spread or Washington money line, go with the over. I'm pretty confident the over will hit. But that's the only bowl games that should be interesting this week. Moving on to a couple NFL thoughts and takeaways from the weekend. The playoff picture is really starting to set up. Kind of the only things I'm really talking about here. Each conference has two wild card spots open, and then the AFC South division and NFC South division are still up for grabs. Talking about the NFC South, how does Tom Brady keep doing this, man? Looked like they were dead in the water, and somehow once again he pulled off a late comeback, just like they have been doing for it seems like the past 5 weeks now. It's been an unreal tear. I don't want to get the Bucs in the playoffs if I'm the Cowboys, honestly. Tom Brady, for one, has never lost to the Cowboys. 2, you don't know what you're going to get with this Bucs team. They are god-awful this year. They've been horrible, but for some reason they just seem to keep themselves in these games and win late when they need to. I seriously think this is the 4th time this year Tom Brady has pulled off a drive like that. It's been, or not a drive, but kept his team alive and a chance to win the game. And they just keep on doing it, man. It's blowing my mind. Kind of going back to the AFC South, though, the other division that's open for grabs, I really feel like it's the end of an era in Tennessee. I feel like it's time to just have a fire sale, trade everyone you can, cut everyone you can. Sadly that means Taylor Lewan will probably get cut, busting with the boys. I love that guy, but he has a ton of money. He's talked about it openly that he thinks there's a chance he'll get cut just because the injury history, the PEDs. But I would just be surprised. I feel like it's time for something new in Tennessee. I'm not, I don't think you need to fire Mike Vrabel, but if I'm Mike Vrabel, you might think about going somewhere else possibly if you don't want to do a rebuild, because I think it's time to do a rebuild. Things just don't seem to be going the right way. They don't really have a quarterback for the future. I don't think Malik Willis is the answer. Ryan Tannehill, I mean, maybe got one more good year out of him, but he's dealt with injuries this year. I just don't think that the Tennessee Titans are who they were the past couple of years. I think it's kind of all coming to an end. That playoff loss last year just kind of showed more of it, in my opinion. So I definitely think it's time to cut ties with that. And the Jags, they actually hold the division right now with their win on Thursday night against the Jets. I mean, that'd be awesome for Trevor Lawrence and the Jags and Doug Peterson to make the playoffs this year in his first year. Not much of a threat, in my opinion. You never know what kind of Jags team you'll get, but that just shows right there, the Titans don't hold the division. They don't make the playoffs this year. I definitely think it's time to think about doing a rebuild and kind of starting fresh. And that could mean so many different things, but I think it's definitely the end of an era for Nashville and the Tennessee Titans. A lot of teams didn't really help themselves this weekend, the Titans being one of them. Looking at the Dolphins, they fell apart. Obviously talked about Tua suffering another concussion, that came back to bite them in the ass. They had a chance to lock up a playoff spot this weekend. That's the other thing. Chargers have a chance to lock up a playoff spot tonight as well. So we'll see, but that's not looking hot for them either. Dolphins definitely didn't help themselves. Patriots losing, they didn't help themselves. Raiders definitely hurt themselves. The Raiders are really sitting on the outside looking in right now. They kind of need a lot of things to go their way in order for them to really have a chance. They're still alive technically, but I feel like their season's shot. I feel like they're pretty much done for. The odds of them making the playoffs are small, but wouldn't surprise me if they somehow snuck in like they did last year. Commanders, they're still sitting in the 7th spot right now, but their loss definitely didn't help them. Giants, they got beat up by they didn't get beat up by the Vikings. They got beat up by the Vikings' adversity and willingness to just somehow only win one-score games. They just keep finding ways to do it. Definitely doesn't help the Giants. They still have a really high chance of locking up a playoff spot next week, though. Seahawks and Lions were the other two. They really hurt themselves. Oh, my God. Is there just another interception? Yeah. Nick Foles just threw another interception. This is an awesome Monday night game. 3 interceptions. This is unreal. But Seahawks Lions, they didn't help themselves. They really could have used a win with the Commanders and Giants losing, really make their chances a lot higher. But some teams did do some good for themselves. The Steelers kept themselves alive. You never know with the Steelers. Their Steelers and the Packers were probably the best winners of the weekend, other than the Bengals and Ravens clinching playoff spots. Just keeping themselves alive, man. That's all you got to do this time of the year. You just got to keep finding a way. How crazy would it be if the Steelers and Packers both snuck into the playoffs? They both have had some up and down years. Ooh, I don't know if Derwin James got that. That's going to be a close one. Looking at it. Getting one foot. I can't tell if he gets the other. But, Packers, I could see them making a run. I've been saying it for the past couple of weeks now. There's just something feisty about them. They found a way to get it done again. But we'll see. But that's today's show. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, send to your friends, send to your family members, send to anyone else that believes in mythical creatures like I do. But other than that, I hope you have a blessed week. I will see you on Friday. But get ready to listen to me for the new year. Whatever else you got to say. I love you. Thank you for your time. All these other things. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. But for now, your boy Titties is out.